Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakakudash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to Akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Raya with another video, and I'll be reading from an article on cornucopia.org titled Genetically Modified Foods Pose Huge Health Risk, and was published on May 22nd of 2009. And as we'll see from the information presented in this article, it's just a further indication that you Edomites are a cancer to this planet, that you truly are the son of perdition, or the son of utter destruction, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Ever since you came into this little season of your final rulership, beginning with the Renaissance, the entire planet has languished under that rulership. No other time in human history has been worse than the times we're living in right now, regardless of what you like to say in your heavily edited and falsified history books. You've got chemtrails in the sky. You've got pollutants in the ocean killing off marine life and causing record numbers of marine life to beach themselves on these shores and commit suicide because they can't deal with that pollution. You've got cell phone radiation making people infertile and giving them cancer, and all those issues are only going to be exacerbated with this further rollout of 5G. You've had these destructive wars like World War I and World War II, which have killed off millions to tens of millions of people and saw the use of atomic weapons. Your political and philosophical ideologies deteriorate human interactions, which is why you have all these feminist-minded, liberated whores running around, these weak, pathetic, cucked-out men, these sodomites, these transgenders, these degenerates, you name it. Your government policies break down the family unit and lead to these single-parent households which raise mentally degenerate children. And of course, these genetically modified organisms, these GMO foods that further break down people's bodies and give them a whole new host of adverse health effects. If you Edomites were allowed to rule indefinitely, this entire planet would be turned into a desolate, lifeless wasteland, as it says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 22, and except those days should be shortened, no flesh would be saved. But thankfully, we're living in the last seconds of your rulership. Yahushai HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, is about to return to save the elect of his people and his people only, the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and put the final nail in the coffin of your wicked rulership. Let's get into this article. This week, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, or the AAEM, called on physicians to educate their patients, the medical community, and the public to avoid GM or genetically modified foods when possible, and provide educational materials concerning GM foods and health risks. And while all this information is coming out about the adverse effects of GMO foods, we've all been consuming these products for most of our lives, so it's already taken effect in most instances. As we'll see later on in this article, those GMO organisms actually stain your body and don't break down. It's all thanks to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai that you Akim haven't been too badly affected by these GMO organisms. They called for a moratorium on GM foods, long-term independent studies, and labeling. AAEM's position paper stated, several animal studies indicate serious health risks associated with GM food, including infertility, immune problems, accelerated aging, insulin regulation, and changes in major organs and the gastrointestinal system. And best believe that the powers that be that release these GMO products know all these effects, especially infertility. This plays into the bigger picture of the elites wanting to depopulate this planet. Just go to the Georgia Guidestones to see that they want to keep the population under 500 million, and the main people that they want to come after are you Israelites. They conclude there is more than a casual association between GM foods and adverse health effects. There is causation as defined by recognized scientific criteria. The strength of association and consistency between GM foods and disease is confirmed in several animal studies. More and more doctors are already prescribing GM-free diets. Dr. Amy Dean, a Michigan internal medicine specialist and board member of AAEM, says, I strongly recommend patients eat strictly non-genetically modified foods. And at this point, it's hard to tell what's non-genetically modified and what is genetically modified, regardless of what the labels say, possibly the labels that say non-GMO, because when you go read a book called Fast Food Nation, you'll see that the only difference between products having artificial ingredients and natural ingredients is the way they synthesize those ingredients in the labs. Ohio allergist Dr. John Boyles says, I used to test for soy allergies all the time, but now that soy is genetically engineered, it is so dangerous that I tell people never to eat it. Dr. Jennifer Armstrong, president of AAEM, says, physicians are probably seeing the effects in their patients, but need to know how to ask the right questions. World-renowned biologist Pushpa M. Bhargava goes one step further. After reviewing more than 600 scientific journals, he concludes that genetically modified organisms are a major contributor to the sharply deteriorating health of Americans. And that's why you've got a lot of these different countries around the world, especially in Europe, moving to ban GMO products. They're seeing what it's doing to you Americans over here, turning you into brain-dead zombies. Pregnant women and babies at great risk. Among the population, biologist David Schubert of the Salk Institute warns that children are the most likely to be adversely affected by toxins and other dietary problems related to GM foods. He says without adequate studies, the children become the experimental animals. And I'm sure a lot of you people have noticed recently, especially you older people out here, that a lot of these children being born now have all these allergies and health problems, and there's been a sharp rise in autism. The experience of actual GM-fed experimental animals is scary. When GM soy was fed to female rats, most of their babies died within 3 weeks, compared to a 10% death rate among the control group fed natural soy. The GM-fed babies were also smaller and later had problems getting pregnant. When male rats were fed GM soy, their testicles actually changed color from the normal pink to dark blue. Mice fed GM soy had altered young sperm. Even the embryos of GM-fed parent mice had significant changes in their DNA. Mice fed GM corn in an Austrian government study had fewer babies, which were also smaller than normal. Reproductive problems also plague livestock. Investigations in the state of Haryana, India, revealed that most buffalo that ate GM cottonseed had complications such as premature deliveries, abortions, infertility, and prolapsed uteruses. Many calves died. In the U.S., about 24 farmers reported thousands of pigs became sterile after consuming certain GM corn varieties. Some had false pregnancies, others gave birth to bags of water. Cows and bulls also became infertile when fed the same corn. In the U.S. population, the incidence of low birth weight babies, infertility, and infant mortality are all escalating. This is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, chiefly you Edomites, whom the earth has been given into the hands of, because you are the wicked of Job 9:24. One of your blessings in Genesis 27 was the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. And we're getting a clear example of how you're defiling this earth through the information in that article, through your genetically modified organisms, among other things. You've got animals that have consumed your GMO products, given birth to bags of water, and having infertility issues. And in the U.S., there's been an increase in babies being born underweight. infertility, and a rise in infant mortality. And remember, that article was written nearly 10 years ago, so all those issues have only gotten worse because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. You Edomites do everything you can to undermine and go against the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. You don't keep the land Sabbath, and you mix two different seeds together, creating these frankenfoods. And you Edomites are so proud that you don't think you've done anything wrong. As it says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, he sheweth himself as the Most High, and sitteth in the seat of the Most High. You think you're doing one better than the Most High, that you're improving upon his natural creation, but we're seeing the fruits of your wicked labors. This planet is collapsing on every level. This is Jeremiah 12, verse 4. How long shall the land mourn, and the herbs of every field wither? These natural occurring plants being pushed aside for these GMO plants. And what's really messed up is wherever these GMO plants are planted, there's a chance that the wind will blow their seeds into other environments, and those GMOs will set up in that environment and push aside whatever was naturally growing there, causing the herbs of every field to wither for the wickedness of them that dwell therein. The beasts are consumed, these animals having infertility issues among a myriad of other adverse health effects, and the birds, because they said, he shall not see our last end. You Edomites think that your house shall endure forever. You think that since the Most High hasn't done anything to you yet, that he's either on your side or doesn't exist. But the Most High has you Edomites in a trick bag. Just like Pharaoh in ancient Egypt, he's building up your pride so your fall will be that much greater, and the Most High will show that he was the one that brought you up, that you didn't do it by your own hands, and that you are the basest of men. Food designed to produce toxin, GM corn and cotton are engineered to produce their own built-in pesticide in every cell. When bugs bite the plant, the poison splits, open their stomach, and kills them. Biotech companies claim that the pesticide, called BT, produced from soil bacteria Bacillus thuringiensis, has a history of safe use, since organic farmers and others use BT bacteria spray for natural insect control. Genetic engineers insert BT genes into corn and cotton, so the plants do the killing. The BT toxin produced in GM plants, however, is thousands of times more concentrated than natural BT spray, is designed to be more toxic, has properties of an allergen, and unlike the spray, cannot be washed off the plant. Moreover, studies confirm that even the less toxic bacterial spray is harmful. When dispersed by plane to kill gypsy moths in the Pacific Northwest, about 500 people reported allergy or flu-like symptoms. Some had to go to the emergency room. The earth is defiled. How long shall the land mourn? The exact same symptoms are now being reported by farm workers throughout India from handling BT cotton. In 2008, based on medical records, the Sunday India reported victims of itching have increased massively this year related to BT cotton farming. GMO provoke immune reactions. AAEM states multiple animal studies show significant immune dysregulation, including increase in cytokines, which are associated with asthma, allergy, and inflammation, all on the rise in the U.S. According to GM food safety expert Dr. Arpad Pudztai, changes in the immune status of GM animals are a consistent feature of all the studies. Even Monsanto's own research showed significant immune system changes in rats fed BT corn. In 2008, by the Italian government, a November 2008 by the Italian government also found that mice have an immune reaction to BT corn. GM soy and corn each contain 2 new proteins with allergenic properties. GM soy has had up to 7 times more trypsin inhibitor, A known soy allergen and skin prick tests show some people react to GM, but not to non-GM soy. Soon after GM soy was introduced to the UK, soy allergies skyrocketed by 50%. Perhaps the US epidemic of food allergies and asthma is a causality of genetic manipulation. Animals dying in large numbers. In India, animals graze on cotton plants after harvest, but when shepherds let sheep graze on Bt cotton plants, thousands died. Postmortems showed severe irritation and black patches in both intestines and liver, as well as enlarged bile ducts. Investigators said preliminary evidence strongly suggests that the sheep mortality was due to a toxin, most probably Bt toxin. In a small follow-up feeding study by the Deccan Development Society, all sheep fed Bt cotton plants died within 30 days. Those that grazed on natural cotton plants remained healthy. In a small village in Andhra Pradesh, buffalo grazed on cotton plants for 8 years without incident. On January 3, 2008, the buffalo grazed on Bt corn plants for the first time. All 13 were sick the next day. All died within 3 days. How long shall the land mourn for the wickedness of them that dwell therein? The beasts are consumed, and the birds. Bt corn was also implicated in the deaths of cows in Germany and horses, water buffaloes, and chickens in the Philippines. In lab studies, twice the number of chickens fed Liberty Link corn died. 7 of 20 rats fed a GM tomato developed bleeding stomachs. Another 7 of 40 died within 2 weeks. Monsanto's own study showed evidence of poisoning in major organs of rats fed Bt corn, according to top French toxicologist G.E. Seralini. Worst of all, GMOs remain inside of us. The only published feeding study revealed what may be the most dangerous problem from GM foods. The gene inserted into GM soy transfers into the DNA of bacteria living inside our intestines and continues to function. This means that long after we stop eating GMOs, we may still have potentially harmful GM proteins produced continuously inside of us. Put more plainly, eating a corn chip produced from Bt corn might transform our intestinal bacteria into living pesticide factories, possibly for the rest of our lives. When evidence of gene transfer is reported at medical conferences around the U.S., doctors often respond by citing the huge increase of gastrointestinal problems among their patients over the last decade. GM foods might be colonizing the gut flora of North Americans. That's pretty much it with this article. You get the point. But as you can see, this is just another example among a long list of examples of why you Edomites are a detriment to life itself. Back in Matthew 24, verse 22, and except those days should be shortened, no flesh would be saved. If you Edomites were allowed to rule indefinitely, this entire planet would be a desolate wasteland. But thankfully, you've just about reached those bounds you cannot pass. One of the last major prophecies we're waiting to be fulfilled is for you Edomites to mandatorily implement the mark of the beast, which is the RFID/NFC microchip implant. And once you do that, shortly thereafter, Yahushua is going to return to save his elect and put an end to your rulership. And the entire planet is going to rejoice when you Edomites are taken out of power. Now I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 5 through 7. Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked, Esau, Edom, the border of wickedness in Malachi 1, verse 4, whom the earth has been given into the hands of in Job 9 and 24, and the scepter of the rulers, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, with chemtrails, cell phone radiation, 5G, regime change wars to overthrow sovereign elected leaders and set up puppets so they can steal that nation's resources, dropping atomic bombs on people, and of course, these genetically modified foods. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. Not just the people, but the environment itself. The skies, the ocean, the lands, they break forth into singing. And while these heathens are going to go into that first 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and slavery with you Edomites, afterwards, they're going to be able to return to their lands and have some form of rulership, though still under our subjection. And they're going to be completely okay with it, because this earth is going to be governed under the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, and they're going to finally get to see what a righteous rulership looks like, how life was always meant to be lived. The earth is going to return to its former state as the Garden of Eden. But as for you Edomites, after that first 1,000 years, you're going to be rounded up and burned to a crisp. There will not be one Edomite remaining on earth. And good riddance. There will finally be peace. So with this video, I hope you sincere Akim were edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing on. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of Esau Edoms. And as always, I'm going to say Ababa Bal, Kwam Yasharala. Till next time, Shalom.